pod bay doors, please, Hal.
The pod bay doors are slightly open on this mini episode. I'm Jerry Dean Roberts of ArmchairCinema.com and also OverthinkingOscar.wordpress.com. Here with the gold standard and co-host, Mr. The Critic from TalkMovieToMe.com, the one and only Mr. Doug Keller. How the heck are you today, sir?
And the Oscar goes to Parasite.
I wasn't expecting that. In a way, I was, but
nobody
I
was
wasn't expecting that.
that.
We're going to talk about our reactions to the Academy Awards. We always talk about we do a run-up show, but we never talk about the reactions.
Well, because usually the reactions are, yeah, this is pretty much what I figured.
And you didn't want us to do this show last year.
No.
Honestly.
I was just gonna rant and rave about Green Book.
It would have been TVMA because we were so pissed. We were so pissed about Green Book.
Were?
Yeah. But
still am.
Yeah, here we are. It's a much happier.
I can't believe that I was alive to see them break their unspoken rule of not giving a foreign, non-English language picture an Oscar for Best Picture.
the 2 foot concrete language barrier.
Yeah. Which Bong Joon-ho consistently, beautifully ravaged.
And throughout the years, there have been foreign films. There have been non-English speaking films that have been nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, there have been many, even especially back in the 70s, and then in the early 2000s and the 20 teens, but none of them ever.
They always won Best Foreign Film.
Right. You never thought this is going to win until last year, until Roma.
Mm-hmm.
And I was excited for the concept and the possibility that a non-English language film could win Best Picture because Roma should have won Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't Cuarón the first person to win a Best Director Oscar for a movie not in the English language?
Yes.
Yeah. So
because I kept thinking Fellini, and then I went and looked at and I realized Fellini never won an Oscar.
Not officially for him, no. He won a couple of foreign language film Oscars.
No,
but
he never won an Oscar. He received one Academy Award, and that was for his body of work. But he never himself received an Oscar.
But his films did.
But his films did.
That's what I mean. The best foreign language film goes to the country and not to the director.
Right.
For no reason whatsoever.
I think it's changed it's the producers of those films, yeah.
Or maybe even the director, but yeah, it's been a long time coming.
I always say this. I do not understand how the Best Picture category works. Because the award goes to the producers.
Mm-hmm.
It should go to the producers and the director.
Well, remember,
I know it's a Producers Guild, but
Best Picture used to be Best Production.
Yeah, and it used to go to the studio head.
Yeah.
And a lot of producers were pissed about that because it was like, okay, you didn't
do anything but hit the button on the green light and
all you did was sign a check.
Yeah. Sign a check and sleep with an intern. That's
right, and they were never on set or anything, no. And the producers worked themselves night and day trying to get this thing done.
Back in the day, it was the producers that did practically everything.
Right.
Which is why.
And isn't it interesting that all of this happens? It's a union rule.
Mm-hmm.
And the Academy Awards were set up to prevent unions. Irony.
Indeed.
But anyway, Parasite.
Yeah, Parasite. I mean, I can't. So Parasite won Best Original Screenplay, Best Newly Renamed International Feature,
which I still don't. I still haven't figured that one out.
I have, because there had been an influx of American movies shot in not English,
Yeah.
and they didn't want those to be put up in foreign language because a couple of them had been in recent years. Um, there had been like American produced non-English language films, and they're like, yeah, this is designed to bring in other countries' works. So,
There was a major snafu about 25 years ago. There was a movie called A Place in the World,
mhm,
which got nominated for Best Foreign Film. And it turned out that the guy who directed it was not from the country that, because the it was a Uruguayan film,
mhm,
and it was directed by somebody who was not from Uruguay,
mhm,
and he had taken it next door because they had already had a Uruguayan nominee,
mm,
and he'd taken it next door to the Argentinian board, and they had nominated it. Turned out it had nothing to do with Argentina,
right,
and so it ended up being disallowed. And it was just all of this
yeah.
weird crap that went on, and because they had very stringent rules about how.
They still have peculiar rules. I don't like that a country has to pick one movie and then submit it to the Oscars.
Right.
I don't understand why it can't just be, well, if it's not in English, it's eligible, and it played in a theater in Los Angeles like any other Best Picture nominee.
I think it has something to do with they don't want one country to dominate. They want it to seem
And
like it's
some
representing.
and sometimes that would happen. I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure that would, like, France or Japan or
You don't want four Russian
China or,
films dominating the category.
I guess not, but if you're not celebrating the fact that they're Russian and you're celebrating the fact that they're good, I don't really see what point it made, what
Right.
reason there is, because we don't sit there and go, well, okay, so for Best Picture, we're gonna pick something from Los Angeles, we're gonna pick something from New York, we're gonna pick something
Right.
from Chicago, we're gonna pick something from Miami, we're gonna pick something from Dallas, we're gonna, they don't do that.
Hmm.
So everything that's shot, it's like they're not as picky for Best Picture, and I think it's because they're exclusionary and kind of racist. But that's just me. Uh,
Well, he can't say that. He can't really say that much anymore because the film that won Best Picture this year was from South Korea.
uh-huh. Just
It's
because one thing broke through, just because we had a black president in the United States of America doesn't mean we're not a racist country.
That's true. That's very true. But at least you can say at least you can say at least this year you can say that they got out of their comfort zones. Now I'm gonna say this. I would not have complained if 1917 had won the Oscar because 1917 was the front runner.
And it's an
But I
excellent
would have
picture.
complained. But I would have complained that it was a very safe
Oh yeah,
choice.
oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a
There's,
good movie. It's a
yeah, it
great
is.
movie.
It's a very good movie. It's a very standard Best Picture winner.
Right.
Um, my, I think, top of my hopefuls was Parasite, The Irishman. I didn't really want Jojo Rabbit to win Best Picture. I'm glad he won a screenplay Oscar, but I liked it a whole lot more than you did.
Yeah.
Um, like, I think the only way I would have been severely disappointed is if either Ford v Ferrari or Joker won. I wasn't. I'm glad Joaquin Phoenix finally won an Oscar, and I'm glad
Uh,
Joaquin Phoenix won it for this. But
although I'm going to say this,
hmm,
his speech was the most rambling,
all of them,
long. God, it's
all of
like
his award speeches this year have been very peculiar, off the cuff, but all
they've
of
been
them
very
kind of
Joaquin Phoenix.
yes, but they've been. He hasn't been wrong in his
No,
statements.
no, but it's just it seems like they bounce from one thing to the other. They don't have generally a through line except they all sound the same. Um, the thing that I would have, if I were doing it, probably would have been narrowing it down to we need to rethink how we see people who have mental illness. Um,
Well, you know,
stand on that.
his BAFTAs were all about how white and male Hollywood is,
Yeah, but
and the British
this
Academy.
was like
That I
once
think
he
he should
got
have.
to the cow and its mother, and I'm
And the
like,
yeah,
what?
yeah, it got he got well. You know, he's Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah,
I expected nothing normal from the man. I never expect anything normal from the man because he is a peculiar man.
yeah. He's a
Um,
peculiar individual.
he is, and honestly, he's seen some shit in his life. It's amazing that he's still functional.
Yeah,
Honestly,
well, I mean, I'm very touched. I was very touched when he at the SAG Awards because he thanked two people that meant the most to him. One was Heath Ledger, and the other was his brother River.
right?
And that's where that's really where I would have kind of narrowed it. But
Well, then
it's like both.
he quoted his brother one of his brother's songs
Yeah,
in the Oscar speech, and he almost didn't make it.
yeah. But it was again, it's a very, very um, it was a very Joaquin Phoenix
Yes. Yes.
thing. Well, it's like I told someone, right after I saw Joker, that scene where he goes on Robert De Niro's talk show. I said I would like to say that's the weirdest talk show performance that I've ever seen from him,
Yeah, but it's not.
but it's not.
The one in Joker was astonishingly coherent compared to his babbling on David Letterman with the big old beard when they were shooting the
Right.
fake documentary I'm Not There, which is when they sexually assaulted people. So there you go. Um,
But
or
I'm
when
gonna
they've been
say
accused of sexually assaulting people publicly, who knows how many other times that may not have happened.
possibly. But I'm gonna say this. I'm thrilled for everybody who won the acting awards except one. Because Judy is a terrible
Yeah,
movie.
it
I'm
is. It
sorry.
is. It is.
I love
I
Renee Zellweger.
I
She's
did not
wonderful.
I did not want her to win it. As things are going on, I'm like, oh, she's gonna win her second Oscar simply because she played Judy
Judy
Garland.
Garland. This is
And
the
it's
only nomination that movie got.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you mean like
And
Richard Jewell, who
yeah,
where
Kathy Bates.
they consciously omitted Jennifer Lopez's finest performance from an
Hmm.
Oscar nomination so that they could put in
I don't think
white
I think the
former Academy.
reason they didn't nominate her was because they looked at the title and they thought they knew exactly what that movie was.
And it was not.
It is not.
Because
That's what I think happened.
Constance Wu needed to have been nominated for that too.
Right.
Both of them did.
Um, but as far but I told somebody asked me is Renee Zellweger any good in Judy? And my answer was she's fine. The problem is the movie.
Yeah.
The movie is about the worst year of her life, and it's an example of do you want to see a movie about one of the greatest, most energetic performers in the world taking drugs, getting drunk, embarrassing herself in public, disappointing, breaking hearts, and basically making an ass of herself over and over and over.
I don't
That's
know.
what that movie is.
Yeah, but that's kind of what Judy Garland's late in life years were.
But there's no indication in the movie of why we remember her 50 years after her death.
I guess that's probably true. There's a lot of things that they could have done with Judy that would have made it more palatable.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's tabloid garbage.
it is. It is. And again, she's fine. She does a killer impression of Judy Garland, and that's ultimately all it was an
Yeah.
impression. And
Oh, when she speaks, not when she sings.
Right. Yeah.
Because
Well.
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. When she got on stage, there was nobody in the world like Judy Garland.
No.
I mean, when she broke into song, she was on fire.
Hmm.
And this movie captures none of that.
No. Now, who would you have wanted to see go home with the that was nominated?
Who
Because
the hell was nominated?
we've got Cynthia Erivo for Harriet,
Hmm.
which is not a good movie. Um,
It's okay.
it well, you're very generous, sir. Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson. She's who I wanted to win, or Charlize
Um,
Ronan and Women.
let me.
I didn't want
Well,
Charlize Theron to win for Bombshell.
I wanted Aquafina to win,
Well, I said of those nominated.
but they didn't consider her good enough to nominate. Uh,
Listen, Harriet, Harriet was everything. Do you remember when we were talking about this in our Oscars show about how um, they really like to nominate black actors and black actresses who quote unquote stay in their lane and do civil rights movies or slave movies.
yeah.
And that's when they give them trophies. Cynthia Erivo stayed in her lane.
Well, it's like it's like I go back to one of my favorite comedies is uh, Eddie Murphy, and he was talking about his character was talking about the only way a black actor can win is by playing somebody who's disabled and who's a slave. So give me a script, Buck the Wonder Slave. You know,
Is that Bowfinger?
Bowfinger, yeah. Get me the script, Buck the Wonder Slave. That's the only way I'm going to win an Oscar.
Yeah. I
And
mean, and you know what? Then it was true. Unfortunately, a lot now it's still kind of true.
I'm going to say this about Cynthia Erivo. Okay, it was a bad script. It was a
Oh,
bad movie,
oh.
but she acted the hell out of it.
She did, but here's the thing. So I'm sitting there watching Harriet because it got nominated, and because I'd heard that they'd kind of turned it into a white savior movie, which they didn't.
That's probably the best thing about it.
Yeah. um, she she said the words in as I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, there are about 16 different speeches that they could just show for her Oscar clip reel. And I knew that the one where she said, "Don't tell me what I can't do,"
Mm,
twice in the same speech was
mm.
definitely going to be in there. I was waiting for "Don't tell me what I can't do" because that is the most cliched. I'm a powerful uh, specifically powerful woman, but powerful black woman. Every time they're in a hackneyed movie, they say, "Don't you tell me what I can't do."
It's the girl
Every
boss
time.
moment.
Yeah. And I mean,
It's yeah.
there is so much wrong with that movie. And I wish it had been, well, I wish it had been good. Um,
It's
she
good to
was
start there.
fine. She was fine in the role. I don't think that that should have been nominated for any Oscars, let alone two.
Yeah,
Um,
because that song was terrible. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
I mean, I think that got nominated specifically because the actor was also a co-writer on the song.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's unique. That doesn't
Hmm.
often happen. I kind of would have wanted Mary Steenburgen to be nominated for whatever song she wrote, for
Yeah.
whatever documentary she wrote it for, because she's not a songwriter. I think that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And it would have been better than, what was it, Stand Up and that that terrible song from the Christian movie with Chrissy Metz in it.
Breakthrough.
Yeah. Why was
Yeah.
that nominated? I mean, she's a hell of a singer, and I'm glad she got to perform at the Oscars. I love her in This Is Us, and
Yeah.
really want her to break forward and do a lot more stuff. She's a very
Mm.
talented actress and very good singer. But really?
Hmm.
Really? Were there not any other songs? I mean, nominate something from, I don't know, and some other animated movie or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe the pickings were slim this year
Maybe they were. I don't
because I'm not
usually.
going to remember any of those songs.
I
Not even the
liked,
Randy Newman song.
and that one was probably the best one of the bunch.
Yeah,
The Frozen one was just an attempt to redo Let It Go because
yeah.
it's
It was an
almost
attempt to do really.
identical musically.
They nominated the song, but not the movie.
Yeah. No, they nominated the
Um,
movie.
no, they did not nominate the movie. Frozen
Frozen?
2 was not nominated for Best Animated Feature.
It wasn't?
No.
Oh.
They really reached out in the animated category. They
Yeah, they
they
did.
nominated I Lost My Body.
Which
They
was really
nominated,
good.
which is really good.
Really good.
It's on Netflix right now.
Weird, but really, really
Very
good.
weird. They nominated Missing Link, which I thought was going to win.
That was a really good. I liked Missing Link quite a
Yeah, I
bit.
did too. I didn't expect it. Leica is really becoming a huge
And
creative force.
in for good reason. I mean, they've never really made a bad movie.
They haven't. They haven't.
I
They've
mean,
made some movies I didn't care for. I really wasn't a big fan of Paranorman, but
I love
um,
Paranorman. Yeah, oh,
uh,
Klaus.
and
Klaus.
Klaus.
I
Yeah,
watched that. It's not bad.
it's.
It's
I haven't seen that one. I
it's
haven't seen
not
that one
Oscar
actually.
nominated good, but it actually is very entertaining and tells a nice. It's like the Rankin Bass Santa Claus is coming to town, only
Mhm.
not misogynistic and not stupid.
And not dated by 50 years.
Right. It's quite good. It was it Jason Schwartzman plays the postal worker. Um, uh, uh, J. Jonah Jameson plays Santa Claus.
Hmm.
Um, what's his name?
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons. Thank you. And they did How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, which all three of those How to Train
Hmm.
Your Dragon movies are wonderful. The second
Yeah,
one is the best one.
yeah.
Um, so I'm glad that got nominated. I would have loved to have seen that win something from that series win
Hmm.
one of these, but it's interesting. It's the first time in many years that a Japanese animated film has not been nominated.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the first time. Well, I really, as far as Toy Story 4 goes, it's the weak link. As far as
It's
that series goes, it's fine.
which is
The
which is
problem with that
kind of
song,
amazing. It's
the pro-
to,
the
go
problem with
ahead.
that song,
Yeah.
it's a good song if you're watching it with the montage
Right.
outside of
Otherwise, it
because
doesn't make any sense.
otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Because it's really funny because the fork is trying to throw himself away.
Uh huh.
So the song works in the montage, but when you're separated from it, it doesn't
Yeah.
it
I
doesn't
won't let you
work.
throw yourself away. It's like, well, what?
What does that mean?
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
but I like Toy Story 4 is probably the least of the four, but it's still a wonderful movie.
it's still a good movie. It's
it's
just
it's really good, but when you pair it, if I'm certain that if I sit through and go through one, two, three, and four, four's where I'm gonna flag because three is just so emotionally intense.
well, the problem is if you watch them back to back, they're basically the same movie.
Yeah, they really are.
They really are. But tell a kid that. Um, I liked it. It was fine. I would like. I'm glad that one instead of something like Frozen 2, which was just
Yeah, Frozen 2 is a cash grab. I wasn't a huge fan of it.
Frozen 2. I think got written to death
Yeah.
because they were trying so hard to write the first one again.
Well, not writing the first one again.
Right.
Like,
And it was convoluted, and the story makes no sense.
very much so.
They,
Making
they've
making
got
Elsa the I don't really know how ice is an element.
Yeah, and they've got like 12 different characters, and they're trying to deal with all of them with their
Yeah,
separate stories, and it
yeah.
doesn't work.
It's very scattershot. I was I think I was more engaged in it than I was the first one,
Mhm.
but I like it about the same.
Okay,
So,
so you asked me earlier, um, who would I pick for Best Actress?
yeah.
Um, I would have flipped a coin, and on one side would have been Saoirse Ronan, for Little Women,
Hmm.
and on the other side would have been Scarlett
Hmm.
Johansson for Marriage Story,
That's kind of where I was.
and I would have been happy with either one of
Me
them.
too.
Um, the other three, I don't know. The other three were all playing real people,
They they
and
well, no. Um, well, Laura Dern wasn't.
no, I'm talking about in Best Actress.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes, they were.
Um, and they were playing so much the real person that
Hmm.
it felt phony.
Yeah.
Um,
I I was okay with Laura Dern winning for Marriage Story because
mhm.
Jennifer Lopez wasn't nominated, but I would have been really happy to see ScarJo go home with something.
I was delighted to finally see Laura Dern win an Oscar.
Me too. Me too.
She has been an actress all my life.
Yes.
And the first movie I ever saw her in was Smooth Talk, and I was
Hmm.
delighted. I was absolutely
She's
dazzled.
she's always been wonderful, and I'm really glad that she won. And it's kind of a shame that she had to go with such a that they had to go with such a flashy role. Like I would have preferred if her performance in Little Women had been nominated
Yeah, yeah.
instead of Marriage Story, because Marriage Story is a big gregarious part that screams give me an Oscar because I'm not doing the normal things that I do. But her
It's a
performance,
lion role.
it is. But her in Little Women, she was quiet, reserved, and powerful. She was
Mhm.
so powerful.
Such
I
a
mean,
matriarch.
the whole movie, I'm happy that every single Best Picture nominee won something except The
Except The
Irishman.
Irishman.
That pisses me off.
Yeah.
There is no reason why that should not why that did not win anything.
Well,
No
in that
reason.
category, in the Best Supporting Actress category, of course, Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh, who was
Yeah.
wonderful in Little Women,
And excellent
and
in
she was good in
Midsummer.
Midsummer. And I think she's on the rise. She's
Right.
going to win an Oscar at
Yeah.
some point in her
Yeah.
life. I wish
And
she had won for this.
yeah, because Little Women, her she was a she was dynamic in that. I think everybody was dynamic. Little Women deserved more than it got.
It did. It did.
Um,
I'm still I again in the best supporting actor category is the same way. I'm glad to see Brad Pitt win an Oscar. I
but by
really
the
am.
same token, I really wanted Joe
Joe
Pesci.
Pesci to win,
Yeah.
and he wasn't even there.
No, he knew what was going to happen. He's a smart man.
But I mean, God, it's just
Because when you look at actor in a supporting role, the only person in that category that had never won
mm,
an acting Oscar was Brad Pitt.
was Brad Pitt.
Joe Pesci has one for Goodfellas.
Hmm.
Al Pacino has one for Scent of a Woman.
Hmm.
Anthony Hopkins has one for Silence of the Lambs, and Tom
Right,
Hanks has two.
right.
So, looking at that, I'm like, I'm fairly certain that they're gonna go with Brad Pitt just because he hasn't won and they feel bad for him.
And he's the only person in the category who didn't play a real person.
Right.
Um, but I was,
Did you see
I,
The Two
I'm,
Popes?
I did.
It's not bad.
It's very good. It's on
Yeah,
Netflix.
I
It's
liked
really
it.
good. A lot of people didn't see that movie, and I
Well,
think they knew what they were expecting.
a lot of people, when they did watch it, they said, "Well, it's boring." I'm like,
And it's
"Well,
not boring at all. It's
no,
very, very good.
it's riveting." But a lot of people said that The Irishman was boring too. But that's if you have the attention span of a gnat, I suppose it would be.
Yeah.
But
Well, I want to say, switching back, I want to say the one thing that I'm glad they did, and I really, really like this, when they announced the the acting nominees,
mhm.
they didn't do the standard clip.
Right, they didn't do here's the person, here's their clip. They did
Right.
a montage of clips from all five of the movies, and then
Right.
they announced the nominees, and then they
Hmm.
gave the
Right.
Oscar.
I really like that.
I did like that.
Um, I thought, and again, and I got to talk about this before we sign off. The I don't miss a host.
Yeah, it doesn't feel really any different at all because they just get comedians to do the presentations and they tell jokes, and it's a rotating host thing, and that actually keeps it fresher.
When I had my Oscar party, I was the only person in the room who was not annoyed by Maya Rudolph and Kristen Wiig.
I thought that was great.
I
I
thought they
love
were really
them.
funny.
Me too.
I
I
mean, at least
really,
I'm laughing, you know.
I liked Steve Martin and Chris Rock too.
Yeah, the host, not host.
Yes, yes. The not a host hosting opening monologue that wasn't an opening monologue that tore into the Academy for not nominating any women directors.
Right, right, right. And honestly, I don't miss it because I don't. It gives the show a little more free form, a little more free floating kind of
and it
feel about it.
and it doesn't put all the pressure on one person so that if they have a good opening, then suddenly halfway through their jokes aren't working anymore because it's late and nobody cares. Now
Right.
you have a fresh stream of people coming in and telling jokes,
Hmm.
and it changes things up. It keeps things lively, I think.
Right. It keeps
I
things lively. It keeps them new,
Right,
and it's not like, oh, this guy again. You know,
right,
and that person doesn't have to keep coming up with new material
right.
because the idea of having the host was you front load the monologue,
Hmm.
and then as the show goes along, you come up with stuff. Well, it's hard to come up with stuff.
Yeah, when you're not, Billy Crystal, Bob Hope,
Right.
Whoopi Go. I mean,
Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson. I loved when Jon Stewart did it.
Hmm.
After Best Original Song, he said, "Anybody who's keeping track, that's 3 6 Mafia 1, Martin Scorsese
Scorsese 0.
0."
I love that moment because that was because the Oscar was given to Martin Scorsese by Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, and George Lucas.
His
And
three of
they
his
were like,
best
we all
friends.
know what it's like to be up here winning an Oscar, and it is a thrill. And George is like, well, wait a
Well,
minute,
I've never
I
won. I've been nominated a few times, and then Spielberg comes in and spread out like he's Mo Howard.
yeah. And George was like, well, sometimes it's just nice to be at the party. And they're like, no, it isn't.
Yeah, and then but
Lonesome George.
and this year
But you know what?
I was
What's great? You know what's great about that? George could probably buy and sell both of those
yeah
guys.
without them ever knowing.
Right.
It's like that part in Avengers: Age of Ultron where Iron Man and the Hulk are fighting and they're going over that skyscraper that's being constructed, and Tony goes, "How fast can we buy that building?" And then he collapses it. That's
Hmm.
how.
Yeah. Yeah.
How fast can we do this? All right.
But I was very happy with Parasite.
Me too.
I I
How
like the movie a lot. I'm going to say I like the movie a lot. Bong Joon Ho is now the man of the hour,
and he's hilarious.
and people are discovering his films. A lot of people
Thankfully.
I understand that a lot of people are going back and watching Snowpiercer
Hmm.
on Netflix
Yeah.
because of Parasite.
Hmm.
I understand that a lot of people are seeking out Memories of Murder
And
and
Host.
Okja and Host. Yeah, a lot of people are looking at his films,
Hmm.
and he's going to become. And isn't it encouraging though that you have directors who are not Americans in the last couple of years whose names are really becoming
Yeah. Yeah.
like Inarritu and like Cuarón and
Cuarón
like
and
and
Del Toro and
Del Toro, that they're really becoming. I wish we could get some more female directors in there like that, but
yeah, 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 yeah.
can't have everything. But
No, but
I'm
we should.
thrilled that
We should because
we
there's no
should. Yeah,
reason for that.
it's encouraging that it's not all one group of people. Um, I like that he's being appreciated, and I like that he's being discovered.
Right. I'm happy that Spike Lee gave him his director's Oscar
Yeah.
because Spike Lee has always been a champion of Asian cinema, and I think
Hmm.
Ho specifically is along with Park Chan-wook.
Hmm.
Um, because as nobody remembers, Spike Lee remade Old Boy.
Yeah. Not well, but
No,
he
but he
remade it.
remade it. I saw that shit in the theaters. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but I like that he's coming to prominence now. I don't know if you heard this, but backstage or after the Oscars or at one of the parties, um, he went up to the woman that directed Portrait of a Lady on Fire,
Hmm.
which was an excellent picture. I don't know if you
Yeah.
got to see it. It was wonderful.
It is.
And he handed his Best International Feature uh, Oscar to her and said, "Here, you should be holding this."
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's great.
I mean,
Yeah.
he is a
Talk about.
he's a
Yeah.
generous man. He's a funny man.
Hmm.
He is very funny.
Although, boy, they had to get through. Apparently, he doesn't speak English.
Not well.
Um, not well, because they had that translator
Hmm.
who kept coming up with him, and they had to get through
Hmm.
that 2 foot
Which,
thick
and you know what?
language barrier to get through it.
I saw this video on Twitter. This I'm thinking probably very clearly incel guy bitching and moaning how Parasite, if it wins Best Foreign Language Film, it shouldn't be eligible to win Best Picture. It's like, well,
Oh, screw him.
that's actually the first thing that I would think. Well, if it's the Best International Feature, shouldn't that be up against all the other Best Picture nominees because
Yeah,
it's standing out? You know,
yeah,
that would be like saying, well, the Best Animated Film can't be nominated for Best Picture, yet it has
yeah.
been in years past.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and you know, he's like, I wish anything would. He wanted Joker to win because he's got this like panoply of bagged and boarded comic books behind him. So he's
yeah.
a comic guy, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a comic guy too. I didn't want Joker to win for a lot of reasons, but
I'm glad Joker won what it won.
yes, I knew Joker was going to win what it won.
Hmm.
I called score.
I
I
didn't,
somehow knew that that was going to win. I had
because
a
my Star
really
Wars
good.
blinders were still on.
No, I knew they weren't gonna.
My love for John Williams is eternal.
Yeah, me too. And it was his last score, and it would have been nice for him
Mm.
to win, but
And then everybody would have been bitching that,
right because they just gave it to him because it's John Williams. Um, but the
you
fact
can
that
make some of the people happy some of the
a
time.
woman won for an adapted movie off of a comic book,
Mm.
just like last year,
Yeah.
comic book film won best score.
Hmm.
Black Panther did.
Yeah.
So you know, and it's nice to see. You don't often see women composers
Yeah.
getting awarded for anything anywhere, and the fact that she won an Oscar was really nice.
And they introduced this. They introduced her as um, composing the clip, and I'm thinking, okay, well, why isn't she composing the show?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the one that they had conducting the
Yeah.
yeah, I. They're like, oh, this is the first time a woman has ever conducted the at the Oscars. Why isn't she there the whole time though?
Yeah.
Like, what was the point of putting it out that saying we're making a special exception right here in this part, and then we're putting the dick back in?
We'll give you a little. We'll give you a piece of chocolate, but we're not going to give you the
Right.
bag.
Did you notice? This was hilarious. I actually tweeted this while it was going on. It's like, we want to celebrate all the women in filmmaking except for the ones that we didn't want to nominate because they were women. Like directors and you know, producer the whole show was about women in filmmaking and virtually none of the
Well,
virtually no women outside of these are categories that only women can be nominated in were nominated for.
well, Doug, you know what? You can't have everything. You know.
Look, I just I just think that once they announced the nominations, they should have been like, maybe we should change the focus of the show.
Okay, well, before we go, there's one issue we got to talk about, and that's The Irishman. I
I'm
don't understand.
pissed about this.
I don't get it. We picked it. You and I picked it as the best film of the year and one of the best films of the decade.
Yes.
And it is the only Best Picture nominee this year to go home with nothing.
10 nominations.
10.
10. Not a one.
Not a one.
Even, it was tied with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
for 10 nominations. That only won one.
Yeah.
Which is less than I thought it was. I actually thought that they were gonna give original screenplay to.
Ford v Ferrari got 3.
I know, right? For no
But
reason.
but you know what? They were the awards that it needed to win.
Well, they were the sound and editing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that was the best edited picture of the year, specifically what it was up against.
Yeah.
But, yeah, The Irishman went home with nothing.
Yeah.
And
the only film nominated. Yeah.
Do you remember we were talking about that? I said I expect that.
Yeah. So did I. So did I.
Because they did the exact same thing with the exact same number of nominations to Gangs of New York.
Mm-hmm. They won nothing.
Yeah. And Hugo,
I don't get
too.
it.
Hugo
I
got
don't
like
get
13 nominations and didn't win dick. You know?
He has been nominated for the Academy Award 13 times.
Counting writing and
everything.
Yeah.
And he's won once.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't
get
get their dismissal of Scorsese. Maybe they think he doesn't need it. I don't know. I don't know why they do that.
I guess, but neither did Spielberg. Neither does Cuarón didn't need an Oscar.
Yeah.
Let alone 2.
Yeah.
I'm glad he won them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact that the greatest living filmmaker only has one for a film that's not even his best work.
Mm-hmm.
I love The Departed. I've watched The Departed 80 times. I love it.
It's fine.
It's a fun, enjoyable movie. I find it to be very fun.
It's enjoyable, but honestly, it felt to me like when Woody Allen gets out of New York and goes and does a movie somewhere else. It does feel a little inorganic because in this case he's going to Boston.
I always thought that it was fun that Woody Allen and Martin Scorsese, whenever they're not in New York, they turn wherever they are into a mini New York.
Right, right, little New York.
Yeah. It's
like little
even,
Brooklyn,
Even Kundun in Tibet has a little bit of New York in it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, we're going to wrap this up. Happier this year than I was last year.
Oh, significantly so.
We're never going to be completely happy, probably. I mean, I don't know.
Well, look, I wanted The Irishman to win, but I'm elated. Parasite is a damn good movie.
It's a good movie.
Bong Joon-ho is a remarkable director that deserves everything that's coming his way, positive thing that's coming his way as a result of this.
I hope he's just not just the man of the moment.
I hope so too, but now I think that he's positioned in a way that he should have been positioned after Snowpiercer.
Mm.
Because Snowpiercer should have been his big international debut, big international picture, but Harvey
that's going to be a TV series.
Change it. Oh,
that's going to be a TV series, yeah, coming up in May.
With him? With Ho?
I don't know. I don't know. I know very little about it. I know it comes up in May, and it's it's on TNT.
Oh no.
Oh no, yeah.
If it was on like Netflix or Amazon or Hulu, I would be okay with that. But TNT, that's too close to network.
Yeah.
But he's an excellent filmmaker, and even if he is the man of the moment, and he only gets one more big U.S. release, the fact that he is immortalized, as one of only two people to win the Best Director Oscar for a non-English language film.
Hmm.
One of, I think, five people who got the Oscar over the Directors Guild winner.
Yeah.
He joins such classic ranks as Mel Gibson.
Hmm.
um, uh,
Well,
there,
about that.
but there's been others better ones
Yeah.
that have uh, what was it? Argo lost because he wasn't even nominated for the
Hmm.
Oscar.
Yeah.
Ang Lee beat him
Hmm.
just for the fact that he wasn't nominated.
Right.
Ben Affleck, but so yeah, I'm happy for it. I loved the movie. I think I liked it more than you did. Um,
I loved it. I had a few issues with it.
I was just
Um,
stunned by it because I didn't know what was going to happen
I
next.
didn't either, but I was just again, it's one of those movies where you watch it and you realize, and you just kind of have to put it in the back of your brain that, okay, it's entertaining. I'm enjoying this, but I realize that not anything that's happening on this screen could ever happen in any reality anywhere, unless the people were just completely lobotomized. It
Right.
just completely. There's no way that any of this could happen.
it's
It's so the whole plot is so based on coincidence and circumstance,
hmm
but it's fun nonetheless.
but I think that because it's coincidence and circumstance, it's more lifelike.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's driving to a specific end because anytime you think you know where the trajectory of Parasite is going, it changes.
Yeah, but when they're laying on that couch and they're looking outside the kids, and the people are laying under the coffee table and their feet are sticking out. I mean, how stupid do you have to be?
Remember what they were doing,
This is
and you can
true. They were having
easily.
foreplay. Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's everything I have to say.
Okay.
I'm super excited, and I hope you hope that Bong Joon Ho isn't the man of the moment. I hope that this isn't. Look, see, we did this, and now we'll never have to do it again.
Right. Right. Are you happy now? You
Right,
know.
right. Like uh,
Like Catherine Bigelow.
Catherine Bigelow. I was trying to think of her name. Winning.
Yeah.
She's the only woman that's ever won directing Oscar, and she is still the only woman that's ever won a
And
Best
she
Directing
didn't
Oscar.
win for a woman's. She didn't win for a woman's picture. She didn't win for a movie about women.
Well, let's curtail what that really means because that can really kind of walk into sexist territory.
But what I'm
Um,
saying is, she didn't win for a movie that it
she
didn't
won
feel
for an
like
action war movie with
right,
no women in it at all.
right. That's what I'm saying.
But I think that for me, I think them acknowledging that finally acknowledging that a woman can make a damn good action war picture,
Hmm.
and it doesn't have to be a woman directing Little Women
Right.
or Nancy Meyer stuff and stuff like that for them to be considered quality directors. Like,
Soft quote unquote chick flicks.
right. So I'm happy that the woman that won for a movie that would characteristically have been denied to her as a woman director.
Hmm.
Um, so in that respect, I think the Catherine Bigelow win was good. In the other respect of now they feel like they don't ever have to do it again.
Yeah.
Like I expect the first black director to win.
Hmm.
It'll be another 15, 20 years before another one does because they're like, look, see, we did it once.
Well, I don't know because the Academy Awards lately have been so unpredictable because they are moving out of their safe lanes
Yeah.
largely. They're still have a long way to go, but Anyway,
especially in their acting categories.
Anyway, thrilled
yes,
with Parasite.
Very happy with Parasite. That wraps it up here for us on this mini episode of the Pod Bay Doors podcast. You can find all of our episodes at the Pod Bay Doors podcast.wordpress.com. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at pod_bay. Copy and paste that over on Patreon. We are also over there at the same handle. We thank you very much for listening, and the Pod Bay Doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.